right, let's get to work.
3, 2, 1.
Let's do this.
The Phoenix Music Scene on the YetiRadio.com. The Yeti Radio, powered by DavidLeeImaging.com.
It's alive!
The Yeti.
Welcome, everybody, to the YetiRadio.com and the Yeti Radio live on YouTube. Tonight, we have the amazing Mr. BRYON MOGUL in studio for an interview. And tonight, we're going to go ahead and start it off with a song from Mr. Mogul. This is going to be Funeral in Berlin, right here on the Yeti Radio with Mr. BRYON MOGUL. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. BRYON MOGUL. How you doing, sir?
I'm awesome. Now, I can hear you through this, right? That's how I'm going to hear you? Okay, so I'll leave it.
Absolutely. So how you been?
I've been great. I did a show last night at the Blues. Didn't know we were playing it. Did a show last night at the Blues. I didn't know we were playing there until Wednesday. Or Thursday, actually. And it was with Epic 18 and a local band called Hypervisor. who have been just like killing it everywhere they go. But it was a great show, and a lot of people came.
Awesome.
Yeah, the bands all got paid. It was great. The band, really especially from California, Epic 18, they have a hit single out, Stop Procrastinating. It's on my page, Facebook page. But it's a little different. It's not the kind of music you'd catch with us. It was ska. It had trumpets and trombones and just crazy number of contributors to the music. But it worked. A lot of our followers stayed to watch them. I think they and a lot of theirs watched us religiously. And
right.
It was just a great night. It was a great night.
I got to see them a long time ago, sometime earlier last year over at Starlight.
Epic 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, they come through here all the time.
And they're on the big banner because a couple of the guys, I think, are actually from Yuma.
Yeah.
So I know some of them are from California, but they kind of crossover.
Yeah, it's about half and half, actually.
Yeah. So that's why they were on the banner. Somebody said, they're from California. Yeah, but they got a couple of Yuma guys playing in the band. So I thought it was kind of neat, and I thought that,
I thought the performance last night was equal to some of the great ska that made it to the radio and beyond, off of, not necessarily ska, but like Sublime and stuff like that. It reminded me a lot of like a Sublime type of. See, I don't sing and I don't have a singer, so I never worry about the mic.
Oh no, don't worry. When they're doing an interview, they don't worry about the mic because they're only talking.
That makes sense.
But okay, so we'll get into all of this fun stuff.
Okay, yeah,
this is gonna be a blast.
Ask away.
So when did you get started in music?
I was 8 years old. I had skipped a year already at school. I was in the 4th grade, and I got out of gym class by joining the band, which was a presentation of all the band instruments by alumnus who had come to the elementary school. It was Ichabod Crane Elementary School, if you didn't get that.
Oh, wow.
So I was born in the pumpkin patch. And really, it was up in Kinderhook, New York, which is right, just above what we know as Sleepy Hollow. So that's why Ichabod Crane wrote Sleepy Hollow. He was one of the characters in Sleepy Hollow, rather. Anyway, I was 8, and I learned clarinet, and I was sold on the idea that there would be a lot of clapping and recognition if you were extraordinary at your instrument. That's what the guy was sales pitching. All the others were like, you won't make a living at this, kid, but you'll be enriched. And we're talking about band instruments, right? Not rock and roll. Rock and roll, actually, this would have been, like you said, 1968 to 70 or something like that, right? And there was 7. What did I say it was? 69?
67, 68?
Yeah. I was very young, but rock and roll was just barely in its infancy then, and just the hippies were just starting to come out of the wall. And but anyway, the one guy, the sales pitch he had for becoming a musician is, you wouldn't believe the kind of how you feel when people like your music, like you have this rush. Honestly, it wasn't very socially. Like I was thinking, well, that's not really great. I mean, I wasn't into just my personal applause so much, but it is what tilted the scales. I was like, well, I wouldn't mind having a parade, right? Because you want to be an astronaut. All the kids back then wanted to be astronauts or ball players or something, and I realized that the common denominator for all of them was the applause, and or possibly if you extend it, you get a BRYON Mogul Day parade,
right?
Something like that. So yeah, because I know the astronauts got that because we couldn't believe I'm not even sure we did go to the moon. We didn't go that time,
right?
So I'm told. I guess some great stuff. It is made of cheese. Somebody in Britain told me. The moon, it is made of cheese. Tis. So they say that you have the authority of the parent English dominating the American subdialect that we've got. I'm a linguist. I actually took linguistics for a long time. But anyway, that's how I got involved with that, and I stayed in the orchestra until I left school. I went to a military academy. I started in that orchestra. I eventually learned how to play all the instruments in an orchestra, every one of them, and then learned to teach every one of them. I guess I was gifted at it. I was just obsessed at it. I mean, that was all I did. I didn't have any of the normal things kids had. I didn't have like playing cards or riding bikes. I just sat there just practicing one instrument after the other. Same parts, different parts in the music score: oboe, clarinet, brass. I never liked drums. I saw big issues with drums. To me, there's a lot of good drummers. There's not a lot of good drummers. There's some good drummers, and then there's people. I can't imagine drumming recreationally. I mean, there's no song there, right? To me, but let me say something about that. Is that the drums are the most important part of selling a song. Not necessarily the actual presence of drums. It's the cadence and the rhythm of the song. What we're going to get down to at the bottom of whether you like the song or not, or whether you heard it or can remember it or any of that, from a nursery rhyme to an opus from a great composer, is going to be a hook that they have in there that just you can't get rid of your head. And I used to think it was these jingles they use in commercials like "1 minute." Like that. Right. That it's just something that's, but what it was is it's actually a cadence that you're doing. For instance, if you knew I played any Beethoven at all, and I went, what would that do? You can kind of, and I realized that all these nursery rhyme things came down to like rhythms that people were jumping on. You can change the notes and still do it, and that's what I do. Actually, I have a limited number of hooks within my material, and I change the notes, the scales underneath them.
Okay.
And that's what I do.
Mr. Richard Brockway says, "Send our love to Mr. Mogul."
Oh, thank you, Rich. I recognize the name. It seems like I must. Maybe he's on Facebook.
Yeah, he's on Facebook.
Okay. Thank you, Rich.
So, when did you start getting into the guitar?
Okay, so here's what happened, right? So I'm a musician from 8 years old on, right? I go to the military academy. We're running out of money, so I can't really stay there. And I actually stayed there a semester past when we paid, and they couldn't get rid of me because nobody knew where my mom was. It was a rough childhood. We'll just leave it at that.
Yes.
But anyway, so I'm in Texas at the Marine Military Academy. By the way, some of my fans have went to that academy and have images of me at that academy marching in parades. And one of them is William Rogers, who's I don't know if you met him. He moved to Nevada now, but a big staple of our music scene. He's seen Empire Desire, a dozen, 100. He talks one first name basis with all the members, past and present, right. And he picked me out of the crowd. He goes, "Were you at Marine Military Academy?" And he was my upperclassman at the time, so he was ahead of me. But I remember him. I remember all of it.
That's amazing.
So that was when I was really getting a lot of music under my belt, because here you are, you're dropped off. We were living in New York, so something tells me they were trying to get me far away. But in any case, and they dropped you there. I guess some of it might have been just because I was a little bit incorrigible. I don't know. I don't have any solid evidence of that, but I'm sure I deserved something to get there. And I got stuck there 3.5 years, and I was valedictorian for 3 of those 3.5. And then my senior year, we just didn't have the money to do it, so I bailed out and I went to Yuma, Arizona, oddly, because that was, my mother had moved to Yuma since dropping me off there. Wow. Well, it gets complicated. But anyway, when I got to Yuma, I was like, all that hit me, and I ended up getting into the Marine Corps, but not before I had started playing guitar with some local guys that we were doing, like Creedence Clearwater was big, Doobie Brothers were big then. Sabbath was just too scary to touch for the average musician. I mean, that was a cult of people that worked in morgues and stuff like this. I know the guy who turned me on to Sabbath was one of the guys who sticks to the what is the preservative they use? Formaldehyde. Yeah. So I would go down to the morgue and where he's doing this slab, and we'd be listening to Sold Our Soul for rock and roll. So anyway, I knew I wanted to be a rock star at that point. But I had to do the time in the military, and then I came out, and that's when I started. I was in upstate New York, and I met people like Joey Belladonna. Joey Belladini is his real name, but that's how I knew him, because he didn't change it to Belladonna until like the week I met him. I mean, that he left. I mean, it was like a stage thing. It was good, because Belladonna was a drug more than anything else. I mean, that's what they were thinking of it as. Right. There was a lot of partying then. But yeah, I lived with Joey for years. I had a close relationship with a lot of musicians that I had played with that have went on to do great things since then. Mm-hmm. Joey, of course, did Anthrax and then his own project Belladonna, and he's had a rich career of doing his own thing in play or whatever. But he wasn't much of a writer. He never wrote songs. He was a cover guy, and he would always sing like Journey and stuff like this, spot on. So we used it for whatever we could. But the first song he ever sang on that was original on a record was my song "Funeral in Berlin," which you heard at the beginning of the show. And I have other ones with him, but that was typical of the hair band metal pre-split. That was before metal split into hair bands and doom metal. Right.
So we're at in upstate New York.
It was an area, again, between Poughkeepsie and Albany. The capital is Sleepy Hollow Run there. Terrytown and Monroe is the southern tip of it. And Albany's southern things like Rabina. You're a half hour from the Headless Horseman, no matter where you live up there.
Right.
And they take that seriously. I mean, they have the grave there. They have I guess he really is in the grave. I mean, you don't know where the movie. I don't know if the horse comes out of the grave on Halloween. I watched it. It didn't happen. I was there on Halloween. My sister with me too. Was there my sworn witness. Then again, she's seen a UFO since then, so I'm not putting her on my high list of references when it comes to paranormal science, at least. Right. I believe in things like that, but I just don't have any proof of it. It's ridiculous that we all have cameras that are side all day and night now, and the UFO pictures have declined. I mean, when you had to actually use the print and get the film, right. They could pick it out of the sky. But right now,
yep. Well, with technology, they had to get smarter to stay.
Well, now they say that's right. They have better light bending techniques.
Well, thank you for your service. And,
thanks.
Hope your memorial.
It wasn't much in service. I ended up being in the Marine Corps band, and that was a big thing because I was. Marine Corps band, you see them marching around, right? But by and large, their work is playing for rich generals and colonels and their weddings, their parties. And then they always have civilians in those parties who want you to play 25 to 64 by Chicago, right. Or Wish You Were Here by Chicago, right? And ZZ Top, LaGrange, these were all top selling albums at the time. So I would score the music for the band, right? So I'm the only one who knew how to do this. And half of these orchestras that were in, because it's not like a proper orchestra. You have 26 people, and you also have to know military stuff, drill instruction, etiquette, stuff like this. It really is. You're one in a million by the time you end up in these bands, and not even that you deserve it. I got a phone call that said Staff Sergeant Mogul. And I'm like, I'm Corporal Mogul. He goes, well, you're Staff Sergeant now. It comes with the rank comes with first clarinet status on the Marine Corps band in Washington, right? So Washington was a really good one because that you're playing to the really big wigs, and so that's where some of this comes from. I'm sure it has to be, right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean...
thank you anyway, because there's lots of things in the military. I went to a boxing event here for Team USA.
Okay.
And there was a big round robin that was happening, and the Army boxing team was there.
Wow.
And, so after being in the Army, because I was in upstate New York at Fort Drum.
Oh, okay.
So being get to see the whole Army boxing team, that's what they do.
Yeah, that would be a real treat, actually.
Right. So, yeah, it's just service is service, no matter what.
Yeah, well, somebody has to play when there's a Titanic sinking, I guess.
Well,
you could end up, just making the same sacrifice. I just didn't feel like I was threatened at any time.
So, what's a couple of the highest accolades that you have in your music career?
In the music, I have other careers with high accolades, maybe higher than the music, actually. Well, geez, actually, all the recognition that I really, really appreciate has been here because, and I'm not the guy who's going to say, "Oh, I love Phoenix." I was sentenced to Phoenix. I just made the best of it. That's what's happened. Now I love everybody. I hate Phoenix. I love everybody in it. It's just like the United States. I hate the United States, but I love everybody in it, Republican and Democrat. I mean, you got to have those two poles arguing. Otherwise, what would you just let somebody else pass everything? You can't do that. Right. You got to think about it, and the way you think about it is you hear opposing points of view. If you're too closed-minded to hear it, then you do what you're going to do anyway. But most people, I think, are reasonable, right? Like you see something falling from the sky, you hide, right? You're like, just some of the basic instincts. I know Jen came over when I said politics, but I'm not political anyway. I write for myself in on every election. I'm my own party, Bryonist. I'm a Bryonist. And but anyway, what was the question? It was question. Oh, accolades. I haven't gotten that. I got Composer of the Year in 1982 by 19. See, I'm an old guy. 2018 was my composition of a song called "The Werewolf of Carpathia," and I didn't enter anything. I was nominated, and then there were 20 or 30 other nominees, and they got there were categories everywhere. I can't remember exactly who. It was S something Radio. It was a blog that was taken pretty seriously. It was one of the early ones, and well respected. So when they called me that, I got this thing where now I'm a composer. I'm telling Jennifer, my lifelong mate, right, that I've already been with her 20 years almost. In September will be 19 years. Seems like 20, but no, just I told her, I said, well, I've been difficult because I'm given a lot of range to move around because I'm an artist. Artists are extra sensitive. They encompass all the emotion and drama of the day and write it down, and we have to relive it every time they play it. If you ask any of these indie singers about their real life experiences that they sing about, they're crying inside every time they do it. For real, I accompanied one. I was like, "Why are you doing it? Why don't you just stop singing?" I said, "It'll go away eventually." Right. But think about this guy coming down the hill and reuniting with you. It ain't gonna happen. I mean, I've been here a long time. I don't see it. So anyway, get a little extra credit for being an artist, but a composer. Right. So that's another thing. That's somebody that the artists used to select from. So I've been trying to push that, and it did get me a Black Star. She bought me a Black Star for. She said, "Well, it's time that you get an amp that you can plug." And she knew I liked the amps because. We used to go to Uli John Roth concerts. He's the guy from the Scorpions, the original guy who quit when they got popular because he was like, "I ain't gonna play this crap. It's commercial stuff." But the old Scorpions, it was like there's like torture chamber metal. These guys were sincerely the best. I mean, if you ever pull it up, Uli, ULI, John, Jon Roth. I've taken clinics with this guy. Most of my playings, if you were to pick one I sound like, it would probably be him. And I didn't try to get that way, but now. I even look like him, I guess. I just he had one amp and he had no pedals between this and that, and he just plugged it into it. I had all this other crap that was piled up, so I got that amp. And the first day I used it, I was just cranking over a Band Oasis rehearsal studios, and Jim Koza knocked on the door. He goes, "I don't know what you fucking did. Sorry about the language. I don't know what you did, but you're in a whole nother world now." And then that's when I noticed everybody was like, "Dude, what are you doing?" And what it was is, it wasn't that the amp was making me play better. It was that I was playing these notes, and all of them weren't as clear through the processing that I had. I had a lot of preamp that was like non-tube amps. What happened was Black Star is designed for electric guitars. All these other things, that it could be anything coming and going. And if it's not a top name, if you're not getting a 5150 or a dual rectifier amp, you're not going to really see the difference. But they make sure every note you play is actually moved to the front of the listening range. And so when you're playing through one of these, even this little cheap one, I have this little Black Star thing here. Is that camera on? Yeah. It's this little thing. You'll be hearing anything you hear, you'll hear through that.
The baby Black Star.
Yeah, it's $75. I've seen them for $50 at pawn shops. But the thing is, the amp itself isn't the thing; it's the output. has a headphone output that's actually highly copyright protected or trademark protected software chip. I had the guy at Hunt Electronics figure all this out. So if you're going to buy the 412 bottom and the head, you might, and you're going to go direct, you might as well buy one of these. It's the same exact circuitry. A little bit of different EQ on it. That was that chain of consciousness that brought me. Usually John Ross got me them accolades. I don't think I've ever been appreciated quite for so much. And I'll tell you what, to me, the most honorable mention, is that what you mean by accolade? Well, then I have had a few. Accolades to me, I don't know. The most, two people have been really high on my ladder of admiration, in more than two people, two bands really, Sectus and Empire of Desire. And the reason is when I first moved here, the Sectus was the first band I saw that was hard rock or metal. And I was playing as indie accompanist. So I was on an acoustic guitar playing leads like I play, but just as, acoustic. I can play all these leads without this amp. It's just, I know how to play it. But you didn't get that kind of satisfaction. People didn't clap for you before the song was over because the solo was good in those, paradigms. So I saw a section. I was like, this guy's amazing. Plus he had he had a Les Paul at the time. He doesn't do a Les Paul, but Christian Vasquez. And when I came up with Moonlight Sonata and I put it on Facebook, he was my friend, so was David Sectus, and he came forward. He posted, he said it was the most beautiful thing he ever heard. And I didn't think I was playing that well. I still don't think I play that well. I can play a lot better than I'm playing, and I try. But I miss 4 out of 900 notes every time I play. And I guess that's a good ratio for hit-miss, but until I get 1,000 out of 1,000, I'm gonna
4 out of 900. That's close enough to 100% for me.
I met somebody last night that plays more notes in a night than I do, or Johnny Frankenshred. His name's Joe Mills, Joseph Mills, and he's the guitar player for Hypervisor.
Okay.
And now he does 90-minute sets, right? So I'm doing 40-minute sets or 30-minute live streams, so he has it's like the 162 game thing. Yeah, you're playing more notes, pal, but you're playing twice as long. But even taking that into consideration, the guy just does a nonstop solo for his entire set, and it's just like me. That is a 40-minute guitar solo, but if you bounce it around, keep it changing up, and change the things underneath it, and incorporate some kind of level of participation. Bring in 500-year-old hooks that I was telling you about. That's worth $1 million, that one right there. Right. I don't have to do covers because of that. That's what's really cool.
Absolutely.
But anybody else could do that. I mean,
well, you ready to play a song?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. BRYON MOGUL live in the studio right here with the Yeti.
But should I do... what song I should do?
Well, whichever one you want to do, something from Wizard of Oz, or
I will do something from that, but I was going to start with something else.
Okay.
Because I have to
close with the Wizard of Oz. That'll work.
You want like a 2-minute or a 5-minute song?
Whatever you want. Let's do a 5-minute.
All right. Let's start with maybe Moonlight Sonata or something. I can do Moonlight Sonata.
Okay. That'd be awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, when you
There
say
we
it
go.
sounds good. She's got a really high bar for what sounds good. If she said it sounded good, it must be a good mix, man.
Awesome.
Oh, thank you. So anyway, to finish up that Accolade statement, the other person that Empire of Desire have attained the highest level of recognition, in my opinion, for metal bands in Arizona. I've seen them come from all the different corners, but no one has been consistently the same, not changing their music up to meet the studio requirements or any of this stuff, and playing their shows. They hire someone to do every track of their friggin' albums, right? So that if they have a 5-layer guitar on there, you're going to bet that they have several guitarists reproducing it. And I love that. They had 2 keyboards and 3 guitarists at one time that I saw them at the Marquee. But their singer, Tulin, who I blatantly recognize as the best vocalist in the Western Hemisphere, did 2 things. That one is she came and saw Phantom of the Opera at like midnight at Gypsies. And, people that are accustomed to that level of recognition in the music business don't come down to help out people that are playing Gypsies Roadhouse with a home movie and their own music score. But they do when it counts, and Empire Desire is always there. They support shows, everybody's shows. They look for shows to support. They look for who's making noise in the scene. And they've advised me, both solicited and unsolicited, on things I could do that were right, that I did, that changed everything. Like, all right, now you guys just go get a band. And my band came and got me. But generally, she had posted that it was just like this amazing thing she saw. And then just recently at a party, I asked her if she would sing the part of Dorothy in Wizard of Oz in that Over the Rainbow song. And I never would have guessed in a million years she would have just said yes the way she was. I would work on that production with you no matter what. And I was like, wow. So you know, your friends always tell you you're good. Nobody tells you suck except for the drunk jerk,
Right.
who may or may not mean it. But it takes a lot for me, because I realize that friends aren't going to tell you they suck. That if you do suck, you might get somewhere without even knowing it. And I don't know, it's a fear I have. So it hasn't changed my ego or anything to have known that. I feel very, very special having them tell me anything, right? I mean, they're experts. To me, they're experts. That kid, Ken, the guitar player, he played with Schenker, Michael Schenker. I mean, I didn't do anything like that.
Wow.
So I'm gonna his narrative of 5 minutes in the studio with that guy would equal a lifetime of experience for me. So when he does tell me those stories, I listen to every one of them, man. I love them.
So, do you happen to have any pre-show rituals?
Yeah, I flip out. I flip out, and I lose things that are right in plain sight. I get really nervous about it. I used to. I'm almost over it now. I've had some very calm. Generally, I'm the type of guy who likes to plan and execute things as a very rigorous thing, and I'm finding out that not everybody acts that way.
It comes from your military school and then being in the Marine Corps.
That's what it is. And if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't hold a high bar on myself, and I wouldn't be playing well. I don't think as well, right? I mean, I hear a lot more mistakes than the public does, and I go back and fix them. Whether you knew they were a mistake or not is going to mean that it's going to sound better next time, presumably. Presumably, I mean, yes, there are people absolutely. Get worse with time too, I suppose. But
I understand because being on a team, like an honor guard team,
yeah,
when you make a mistake, you know you made it, but everybody else is just floored of the performance that you just put on. Nobody saw it.
One of the other great compliments I got was this girl, Dawn, told me. I said, sorry, she was a big fan of one of my songs. That song we just played actually. And I screwed up a couple. I hit a couple wrong notes on that one too. But I had done it when she was watching, and I apologized. And she said, "We wait for you to make mistakes. That's what the fun part is. We can say we saw Brian make a mistake." And I was like, "Well, that doesn't help either, right?" Because I'm trying to keep a level head and be because as much as it seems like I'm over into myself, and I am into myself, surely I am. But all that over promoting is necessary to get what I'm getting. To get the recognition. Now, my guess is that it's my solemn sworn duty to King and Crown to play my music as much as I can to get it out there. And I don't play so much that I don't bring people. I bring people every time I play.
And you have to be careful, because sometimes when you have a mistake, it's a good enough mistake
to be the new way to do it.
You have to recreate it every time.
I have such an
example. I just saw an interview with Steven Tyler.
Uh-huh.
And I can't remember the name of the song, but they were using this tuning thing that makes that little higher pitched wah wah sound in the song.
Okay.
And you hear it when you pay attention. Nobody heard it before because it was just there. But now we know that thing broke and made that sound.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
now you're going to listen to it every time and expect to hear it if they play live again.
Yeah. If they play live again. Yeah, he's got to be getting on. I know he was much older than me when. How do these guys do it? How does Keith Richards do it? I heard they're retiring, or did they?
I don't. When a band says that they're going to retire or hang it up, I don't believe them.
Well, that usually means they have a big concert coming that they're going to sell out.
And then they're going to do it again in 40 years.
Yeah, Scorpions, Ozzy,
Right.
Ozzy, I don't know how well he's doing now. They used to be able to just stand him up in front of the mic and then just come get him at the end of the show,
right?
And just let him go.
So I wonder about Axl. They got him sitting in a chair on stage, but I guess he can't stand up anymore.
Oh, is it now? It'll get to everybody. This is one of the most durable music communities I've ever seen in terms of the metal scene. Isn't an AARP metal scene. There's a lot of old dudes in it like me, but there are just as many, if not more, younger bands.
Youngsters.
They are still. I'm still seeing Led Zeppelin shirts all over the fucking place. Sorry, all over the place. They well have it in hand how to play like this. What it takes, what they don't have though, and this will prove to be something that they'll have to address, is that it was revolutionary to do this kind of music at one point. You were outcast. You were pulled over by every city cop there ever was because you had a bumper sticker for Zeppelin or Grateful or whatever you had, right? You long hair, some reasonable cause to search your body, things like that. I had to run away from home to play with band. That when I went to that academy and I came back that last year, I should have been at home given my age, but I got emancipated adult status because I didn't want to listen to anybody tell me what to do after the military academy of 4 years. Like, really? You're going to tell me I can't go out? How are you going to stop that? And but they tried. But I got my papers and I went and got my own place and I forgot where I was going with that, but anyway, I forgot where I was going with that. Jen doesn't know either. You want to see somebody nervous is my manager, Jennifer Wharton, who just paces back and forth wondering if I'm going to open my mouth and kill my career. I've done it before. I never said anything I regretted or didn't mean. It's just that sometimes you can't say anything.
I'm sure you've had some pretty spectacular collaborations over the years.
I think I have, yeah.
Is there anybody that you haven't collaborated with that you would love to collaborate with?
All right. Well, when I get asked a question like that, just like if I want to see a show, I have to determine whether you mean locally or on a national level.
Both.
All right, because I don't give much attention to national businesses. I don't own not one single piece of recorded material by a signed band. It's completely local. And I do that so I'm not twisted by the direction that's being pushed by the record. I don't like the whole idea of the record industry, and you don't hear me bitching about it because I'm going to take a contract just like anyone else. I don't like it maybe that I have to not do this song, and I like the artistic freedom that comes along with living in Arizona. It's something you can't get in New York. I'm from New York. I lived in all the major towns like Los Angeles, Austin, and Seattle when they popped with their musical genius. And I saw what happened, and for that reason alone, I'm valuable. I think is that I was seeing like motorcycles crashing into walls because they didn't see the wall. And I said, "Hey, there's a wall." Sorry, and that the thing that's come up is that the industry is driving what a very small number of people want to hear. They don't have a choice. I mean, they have more choices now than they think, right? With the blogs and podcasts and stations like you that have a complete. I think I use the word compendium in the post. Compendium of local music.
Wow.
Well, no, it is though. As far as it goes here, I mean, we're not a record company town. We don't have any museum of rock and roll in Phoenix. We are way over the top for being eligible for this. We need to get a business like Chopper John's maybe to put up 4 glass cases, and you have mementos from the great movements and a big brass statue of BRYON MOGUL in the wash, so that he's a songwriter or whatever. You know what I'm saying, though, right?
Right.
You have to have a cultural identity within your community. Their music's geographic. People don't maybe catch that all the time, but I spotted geographic tells in the Arizona music scene. When I got here from New York, I was like, everybody is doing this chord change, whether it's rap, country, or metal. And there are signatures that we don't even recognize that we put in subconsciously. But yeah, yes, collaborations wise, there are a couple more I want to do collaborations with. I'm doing a collaboration sort of with Toolin now, which is the greatest honor that I've had. Is that I sent her a track for that song for Over a Rainbow, and she sent me back a track with vocals on it, and I was like, damn. And I didn't think
Nice.
I didn't want to ask. And you know, the reason I asked, there's a guy who's one of the biggest movers in our music scene that's real quiet about it. He's got a band that's worth its weight in platinum or white gold. Then Amen Torso has parties occasionally, and he sets up. He invites people that he knows are responsible enough to hang around serious musicians and not say some asshole things, right? Whatever. He's a good moderator for that, but he's a great man in my esteem as a person and a musician. But he had a party for his bass player Jeremy Niffen, who never played bass before this band, this top-notch band, but he plays top-notch. He's sought after now. I mean, some people got it right. Like in 6 months, they're playing, and people are playing what I took 3 decades to play in their first year or two.
Right.
I have students, that demonstrate this. They do those hammer-ons like nothing, and when we didn't know what the hell that was, right? We just saw Eddie Van Halen doing it, and if you paid attention, you saw Blackmore doing it first. But if you go way paid attention, in 1944, there's a guy with an acoustic. I got the video where he taps out on an acoustic, and that was the first hammer-on, I would say. Beethoven might have banged on a stand-up bass. I guess he liked to play stand-up bass. And you can tap bass. My bass player taps. But anyway, the collaborations. Well, I mean, it doesn't get any better than Tool and on the vocals. I've already collaborated with Dawn of the Rising's Ray Kuhn for Evil Eye, which is the only song that I have that has vocals on it. And it's going to probably remain that way because I'm working on this thing with Paige Mills for a show on the 26th of August, our show at the Rooms. It's National Women's Equality Day, I believe is the name of the holiday. Notice they didn't give it to you on a Monday or anything, right? They're not going to pay you anymore to be equal, but we'll give you a nod. So anyway, so we're gonna do that. We have 4 bands that are female represented, and then the first thing I get is, hey, you guys don't even have a singer. How are you guys in there? I said, well, I happen to know a few singers, and Trixie Von Vixen's one of them, and Paige Mills is another, and actually Toolin. And then Paige Mills is available and willing to play with me that night.
Well, when you hit me up about that show and asked me if I would help put that together, I don't do that.
No, I know you don't. In fact, you're the bastard who actually came up with the name for the Equality Day.
Well, it's because I went to write it in the calendar and it said Women's Equality Day, and I'm like, hey, here's a dumb idea. Not that it's a dumb idea, but it was just something off the cuff right then and there. I'm like, hey, it's Women's Equality. Why not have either all female bands or female fronted bands?
Something like that.
What a great event, and just to show respect and have some amazing talent shown in that perspective. But I don't put shows together because
Well, you know better.
I don't take rejection well, and I see Rockin' Free Live and all.
There's somebody's going to bitch about everybody. One of these guys.
I don't want none of that.
Well, you're not going to ever get me to badmouth Rockin' Free Live. I don't care what they could employ. Taiwanese miners to sew the labels on their jackets, and I would still support them because they have brought so many bands that were really good talent. I mean, she has a good ear for what potentially is there, even if you can't hear it. And these battle of the bands that they had up at the Blues or the 44, wherever they were, wouldn't matter. You would still be not ready for prime time, but you'd be good. But then she drove it to the point where when I went, I was a judge on 2 or 3 of these 3, I think. And the last one was Avarice, which was just a sick band. And then versus the X's. Right. X's are on our show. Just for you guys out there, August 26th at the Rooms, 43 West 6th Ave in Mesa. I'll be mentioning it. It's going to start out with Illuminatus at probably 7 o'clock, and that's the best female singer I know that ever did any Irish music. I mean, but she has one of those high soprano, spot on. She just sings without the mic sometimes because her voice is so powerful.
Right.
Goes in the parking lot. She's doing scales, really great top art. And as if that were enough, and you'd think it was. You'd have Conrad Varela on guitar,
right,
who has written a book on guitar. He's my instructor. He's the guy who showed me how to play in time. That's what I was doing wrong. All those years, I had speed down, but I didn't have the metronome. Okay. And he taught me to play to a metronome, even really slow. And he said, watch, even real slow, you're not going to be able to do it. It's just impossible for you to train yourself. But eventually you do, and that's when they started paying attention. And that's why he's so fluent now. He's left the metronome that he's just like. Unfortunately, in my opinion, he's reached a plateau where it doesn't sound like it's a real guitar player anymore. that it was generated by, a computer program with perfection. So he's been embracing that and doing a couple side things that show that he isn't so. He's just the best guitarist I know. I mean, I'm good. All these other face melters are good, but this guy's on another page completely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Every time I get to see him play, it's always phenomenal. It's only been a couple times, but still.
But I figured after Illuminatus, we would play Ankh Alien, and we would have Paige Mills, the sound girl for the Blues, and I don't want to hear anything bad about her because she's a doll, and she's done a lot for local music and for vets too. Yeah. She sang with that on the Veterans Day show, which was just a giant success. That's the day you don't have shows. That's the day that bars close down and not have the shows. Veterans Day is one of the deadest holidays there is. There's usually this huge musical festival down in Bisbee that weekend, and also simultaneously in Tempe and the Mesa border. And you never get anyone. And we packed that house, set a record for the Friday night bar at the Blues that night because of a last-minute effort to just say, well, we had the Code Talker thing going on where I had talked to one of the last 2 of the surviving Code Talkers through the help of a friend of mine, Jim Beaucamp, bass player. You know who he is? You met Jim, right? He used to play for, or he does play for Blackwater Lake. But he's really a metal player. He's been doing. Look at my timeline. You'll see these things from this guy. He's that hands down the best metal bass player I've ever heard. And I've played with Billy Sheehan, and I played with some other good bass player, Jack Daly from Lenny Kravitz. These are all these upstate New York guys,
right?
This guy trumps them all. And he's just getting back into metal because he's been on this. The Blackwater Lake thing was a pretty high-profile Southwestern American country rock, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
It wasn't quite as twangy as Outlaws, and it was heavier than Tune the Chest. I mean, but there's that area, which my movie's not my next movie, but the one I'm working on for Halloween with the independent studio is going to be a Western. Well, it is. I've read the script. It's a Western horror film set in the 1870s in the Arizona Territory, and about 4 villains that do some dirty deeds in the movie. And now there's such a foul collection of people there that there's an evil presence that develops, and it's just straight Friday the 13th horror from there. And he typically the guy from Dark Knight Entertainment, Dark Knight Productions, Dark Legend Production, singular production. That's what you want to look up. You can look it up on any of the platforms, but they have movies out. But he wanted to score it with a metal soundtrack instead of his traditional independent avenues, which I think on the last movie I saw was A Cry in the Night, which was another horror camping film. And it wasn't set in the Old West, but it had flashbacks of the Old West because they were on a haunted territory or something. Anyway, so I decided I was going to actually, I signed on to that, and it's my first professional one. But they're going to get more than their share of the music because I think usually the guy was coming in with a guitar or acoustic and just doing some kind of, it wasn't lame, but that's independent films. They don't have the kind of budget and everything, but you know,
it's like independent music.
Well, exactly.
Well,
it is.
Money in it.
I think the people that are promoting movies of this sort are probably personally wealthy or represent wealthy interests. So therefore I signed on for getting paid for this one too, which is not important to me all the time. In fact, it's very rarely important that I get paid because you don't want to know what I would do with the money. It's just a waste. So I can give it to Jennifer, that's all.
Oh, by the way, Richard is rich.
Oh, well, I do need
from
sponsors.
17 seconds.
17 seconds of fail?
Yeah, Rich.
Those guys are, yes.
That's
that's
Richard,
the guy.
Yeah, it's Richard threw me off. Had he said had his screen name been Rich, I didn't know.
Yeah. We have
I said
that.
Richard, and I got all formal on him and shit. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I called the William a Bill once and got all kinds of crap for it. So you're right. They just had you dream. That band got to be among the most supportive fucking players I ever knew.
Amazing.
They're great players.
They're just fun.
Yeah, they got originals too. Don't let them lie to you about that. They just don't
they
do
didn't
them.
lie.
No.
They talked about it. They just didn't want to go there. And that's fine.
Are they coming on for an interview when they?
We just did it last week.
Oh, I didn't see. How do you know this? No one tells me of these things.
Earlier.
Well, it's not because I'm 122. It's because I just haven't had my Mapo, I guess.
So where's your favorite local place to play?
The best stage, I'm not sorry to say, the best stage to play is the 44.
Okay.
All right, because they have the best sound man in the valley there, JD.
Yeah.
The thing's modern.
The old Joker.
Modern, noise isolated. Everything's been taken care of. You're playing on the best stage. You're given the best sound there is, and it's the biggest room that I can play right now. I'm not playing the marquee till I have a crowd there. You think I'm going to do this and have my fucking 75 people out of 1,000? Just like no, I'm going to play to a big crowd. I've already played to thousands. I just want to play to them all at once.
Right. Absolutely.
But so the best is the 44.
If you could play in any venue in the world to a full packed house, where would it be?
I'm the type of guy who wants to play a place where he's not allowed. Oh, Jennifer doesn't want me to say that. Okay. Really, anywhere in the world, I would want to play that dump that the Beatles played in 1961 before they got famous. Did you ever see it when they had the guy, the other drummer? Mm-mm. Ringo wasn't even with them. It was their first gig that was televised. It wasn't televised. It was actually recording on 8mm film. It's color recording, like the Zapruder film, but it was pretty much the same thing. And it was in Salzburg, Germany. It was a downstairs basement bar, and I think the translation was the Rathskeller. I think that's as simple as that.
Okay.
I would always want to do that, but really, you'd have to play the kinds of big arenas that I wouldn't mind playing in an arena. You're not going to hear yourself, though. I mean, it's not going to be as much fun. I like seeing people that I watch the audience to see when they're paying attention, and when I see that they stop texting or shooting pool to watch the solo, I do more of that. That's where I'll build more of that into my next night, and that's really been a successful thing I do.
Don't get distracted by me because I'm the only one running all this. So when I look away,
well, you should stand behind the camera. Pay no attention to the man behind the camera. Jennifer, why don't you come on and say hi to everybody? Jennifer is my Sharon Osbourne. She says I'm all cracked up. See, you get to know too many things. I went to college. I was I was a chemist. I was a mad scientist. I was a linguist, an anthropologist, and then you put all in religious studies at Harvard. Seriously, you just all these conflicting sources of information. None of them talk to each other, and if you knew all these things, and you saw some of the patterns that exist between these fields of thought, you just wonder how we even got the electric light. Right. Yeah. At this point, and my crusade's chords. We don't need electrical cords anymore. There's a lot of ways to avoid it, and I have a lot of cords here.
Yes,
which is why
we're going to have to untangle you before you just have to get up.
Yeah,
and you're going to fall
I just feel like I'm not even old school. But Tesla tried to get us to all take that the electronic, the Tesla ball, and we said no because we didn't have the vision of some of the greats.
So what do you do in your spare time outside of music?
There's not a single thing, dude. This is not it. If I'm not playing or recording, I'm actually looking for a song to remake or looking for a movie. I have no spare hobbies, none, zero. Artistic expression through my backdrop and stuff like this. Like, I'm not much of a painting artist. There are some good painting artists. Let me throw their names out there because they are they're inextricable from the music scene anyway. It's like Diego Sandoval is an artist who was painting for me at the Time Out Lounge, painting for us at the Time Out Lounge when we played with, what was that, Bill? I Don't Conform and somebody else, right? Yeah. Hypervisor. With I Don't Conform, right? Was it? With I Don't Conform. I Don't Conform. Have you had them in here?
Yeah. No, not yet.
Oh, you're going to love them.
I got to get red filters before they'll come.
What, red filters?
Yeah, they want red lights.
They look great in red.
Oh,
Is their logo the whole thing? I got light.
I was talking to him, and he's like, "Oh, you got to have red lights." I'm like, "Okay, I can work on that."
They are a magnet for the media, and one of the very, very best bands I know. Most fun bands. Were you there when I let them come up and finish our set on stage at the Blues? I said, they're right there. They're all three of them. I know that he can play my guitar, right, because I've seen him do it. I said, bring him up. And no band ever does that. And only a band like that would do it. And they just walked up and they just took over that.
Yeah, that's just their personality. It's the way they are, the way they love their music, the way they love their people.
And Kyle's great. They have a part dedicated so he can just solo all he wants. Apparently, he's not going to get kicked out of his band for overplaying. But, no, but he's really good. But the funny, can I tell a story about the drinks or no? He was doing a solo, and then I see his band. I'm outside of the Time Out Lounge. His bass player comes up, and I was like, "Wait a minute, what are you doing?" And he goes, "Oh, we have this part of the show." And I remembered when he told me that they salute the audience, and it gets you to go to the bar, increases bar sales too, and it's a social thing they do that they believe in. I used to have 3 shots of I used to get him good light whiskey, but anyway, they didn't have their shots, and he was in the middle of the solo that ends with this toast. So I ran in and got him some shots so they could finish their thing. But the whole time, we caught the bartender when he had like 4 people ahead of us. So he's just playing the solo, right? And it's just going on. And they're the last bill anyway. They're last on the bill anyway. And he's enjoying it, right? Just like I would. But it was a nice long solo before they finally got. So when he got in there, anyway, it was like a 10-minute thing, and I appreciate that more than anything. Guitars, you might say, why guitar, right? Well, it's the difference between rock and any other music. If you go back and look at the pictures, not even listen to the music of what happened between 1940 and 1960, you just see the acoustic giving way to an electric guitar, and you see the stand-up bass going to an electric bass. And everything else is the same. There's a guy playing keys, playing drums. Drums are next to go. You guys better watch it because there's machines out there that are a lot tighter than we are as humans. And the minute they start playing guitar, that's going to be the same thing. I'm competing with programs that write songs for people. They pick the topics they want, the kind of style they want, the guitarists. They push buttons on a questionnaire, and they put their $15 credit card fee on there, and they get a song that's theirs.
Right.
I don't even know if it's copyrighted as theirs, but it's theirs, and written by their exact thing. But yeah, I can do that, but I can't do it in real time in 15 minutes either.
Well, for me, what wins on a stage show?
Yeah.
Okay, because I can't tell. My ear's not good enough to tell if it's real or if it's Memorex on a CD. But because I've had the opportunity to work with and be around the people that use it, is the Hammond B3
Yes.
with a Leslie. And the part that gets me is they've duplicated the sound electronically.
Yeah.
And it's not the same.
Oh, you're right.
Is it like the difference between a CD and an LP?
Or grape
vinyl.
Grape flavoring and imitation grape flavoring.
Well, yeah.
I think it's the same kind of thing. Is some people will get maybe the cross section and the bell-shaped curve of listeners might not notice much of a difference, but I mean you can notice, yeah, absolutely that some of the stuff. I hear all kinds of cheating. I won't say anything.
Oh yeah.
Not even by local bands either, though. We're really playing the shit.
Well, I was told when I was a local stagehand at the casino I worked with back home, and I worked with some amazing people there as far as what we did stage wise, and it was just phenomenal. And but getting the opportunity to see the Leslie at work, and then I was told there was only like 12 in existence.
The real Leslie, the spinning speaker ones.
Yeah.
I saw one when I was in my 20s.
Yeah. And I'm like, at that time, which was probably about 20 years ago, they said there was only about 12 of them left in the world.
Well, on the recordings, the one the metalheads might relate to is Led Zeppelin's Close the door, put out the lights. What's that song? No Quarter off of the album. That is a spinning speaker with a Hammond B3, and Moody Blues used it.
Yes.
Very classic, and that's the only way you could get that sound too.
We did the Moody Blues, and they had a Leslie with them. And I sat on that side of the stage behind the black curtain, right behind the Leslie, and just sat there for the whole show. If I wasn't having to, do stage work, but when I wasn't doing anything, that's where I was sitting there listening, because it's, to me, that's just one of the most amazing sounding instruments. And, it's an amp.
Can I just say something because it's related? The first guy to ever give me a shot in the arm to do my music, I was coming back to visit my mom and family from that military academy. It was 1975, maybe, and I had that realistic deck, and I had my own song on it, and I got moved up to first class because there were like 3 people in the flight, and I met from the Moody Blues. It was what's his name? The lead singer. Jesus, his biggest name. I can't remember his name. He was the singer for the Moody Blues, the blonde guy.
You asked him, he goes, poof, and I'm like,
well, this was a long time ago. So anyway, I asked him if he would listen to my song, right? And it was horrible, dude. It was the most horrible thing. I copyrighted it. I liked it so much. But this guy was like, it is great. You ought to be doing this. And I don't know if he was snowing me. He probably was. Or maybe it was like, it took me a long time of playing well before I believed it was good playing. I don't know what happened, but I wanted to be a rock star from that day too. And Thomas, what's his name? God, I wish I knew. Anyway, he changed my whole life. Me and him, like the only ones on an airplane. And I could have sat anywhere, but I knew who he was. I was a big Moody Blues fan. It was the biggest band to me. I would do some of their songs still. And I would do Nights of White Satin again. In fact, I did it with Chris Eiler, and he moved away before we recorded it, though.
Oh.
Yeah, we did it at a 60s show for Scott Rowe, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got a story about that song for you once we get done. But,
oh, yeah. Kniggets in White Satin?
I don't know. Well, what are you going to close out with?
Oh, well, I have a 6-minute Decameron. Is that too long?
No.
That way you can get like a little of everything, because it's a song about the Black Death in the Middle Ages. The name of the book by the Italian author Boccaccio is the Decameron, and it's a collection of short stories told by different levels of the class people, like peasants, royalty, tradesmen. They all recounted their stories of the Black Plague in 10 little stories that were in this book. The book was written many years later, 600 years later, in the 15th century, 16th century, and the book is presented a lot. Okay, this is what happened. Remember the health scare with COVID and everything. Right. Remember how initially nobody believed that there were just too many conflicting stories about what it even was. Doctors were saying, no, don't listen, and you didn't know what to do. And that's exactly what this book is. Half the people blame God for punishing a bad country. Another half said that the king is coming up with a way to poison us and take our crops. Another one... So it read exactly like Facebook did from March 2020 to 2021. And we don't even know. I mean, here we are, and 6 centuries after that book, after the 6 centuries after that book, we're still telling the same. We're the same people. We just have no friggin' idea. We're scared just like everyone else of dying. We don't want to ever talk about it, but we have the same same weaknesses, same strengths.
That's my question. Why are we so afraid of the one thing that's the most inevitable?
And we argue about things that are completely intangible, like we have no proof for politics or religion, but we'll die to make our point. We have no source of. Here, at least, you ain't coming back for the most part. One guy every couple thousand years, whatever.
Right.
If that, but
don't get me wrong. When you lose somebody that you love, it hurts.
Well, I lost my cat, dude. I haven't lost a family member I cared about more than that cat, and I hate to be evil about that, but I'm just in tears.
Right?
How can that be? How can you have a relationship for 15 years with a human or an animal, and just know that it's horrible. I never felt that before I lost this cat. I've had 26 rats. I felt it in a minor way for each one of them, because rats only live 2 years, right? So that's not a lot of rats in a lifetime. You have 2 or 3 at a time.
I guess you don't want to know I have snakes for pets then.
But no. I used to set the snakes free on holidays. No, I'm just kidding. That wouldn't be funny. I did set turkeys free, and they were turkeys on a ranch in Sylmar, California, in 1989 Thanksgiving. I went up there with Earth First and let a whole shitload of them out, because they weren't. They were wild turkeys, by the way. Rather than all the ones they raised to die, they go out and they pick the last few. They were going to be our national bird. That was the turkey. That's what Ben Franklin wanted, national bird turkey. He didn't want the eagle. There's 5 of them, really. He at least had the foresight to know we would exterminate them by now.
Right.
What do we got? We got like 3 or 4 of them. I saw an eagle once. I have a question, though. You know anybody from New Zealand?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to talk about that later, because I was starting to think it was a made-up place, like Atlantis or something.
Nope.
And you had to pay a lot of money to go there just because you.
Well, you got to pay a lot of money to go there because it's a long way away. But it's an expensive trip. I've got a friend there and a couple of friends in Australia, and they're on my bucket list. But I need to win at least a small lottery.
Well, I know better than assault any of my listeners there, because I believe that there's still those class of organisms, mammals down there, right? The marsupials are indigenous only to that area, I think, for the most part. There are some exceptions. We have a possum in upstate New York.
Right.
Marsupial.
All right, everybody. This is Mr. Bryon Mogul, the maestro himself, right here live in the Yeti Radio studio.
I can't say that, but I love hearing it.
You get up and tear it up, sir, and thank you very much. You signed my face melter shirt, so it's got 2 of the 10.
So I'll say in closing here, the Decameron has got 3 parts. It's part of a larger opus I have, but this summarizes it. It's a part of. It starts kind of like kind of suspiciously terrifying, and then it gets really panicky, and then it gets triumphant because you beat. It's kind of a microcosm of everything that happens, and at the end you win. Humans are still alive even after a third of them are dead, or COVID. We finally get a vaccine, or we don't. But that's what it is. So hopefully you'll get all those emotions will be provoked by these musical changes I put together.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. BRYON MOGUL, right here live in the Yeti Radio Studio.
Thank you.
That's a workout. But I love it because I never get to play it. It's too long to play with my band because that's a third of the set, 10 minutes almost, right? So it's only on rare occasions I get to play it.
Right. Outstanding. That's. I know you've complimented me on some of my camera angles on some of the shots that I get on you.
I still don't understand them.
That's why.
Dude, you got some of the best video I ever saw of me ever. In fact, you do have the best video I saw of me ever. You just know what. You just know what. When it's coming. You seem to know when it's coming. Like when my outbursts of. Sometimes they work out really well. I mean, then I learn things. Like I make a mistake and play them better, and then I make, like you were saying before. Then you make the expectation.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, that song is a workout. It's a song that got me recognition in the punk scene because a guy who's in the metal scene, but also mainly punk, is Toki Warman, better known as from Crank Lab 2.0 or Crank Lab Explosion. But I did this up at this place called what was the name of that place up near Ground Zero? Krusty Palms. Krusty Palms, they used to call it. It was outdoor. It was really an arena. I organized a show and didn't go to it. I didn't have a choice. And there was 1,000 people in and out of it. So everybody thought that I was this great organizer, by the way. But I picked a good night. I don't know what I did. I did do a lot of promo. But anyway, so it was at that show that he came running up to me. I didn't know a soul there, not a soul. And it was all punk rockers, and they were like kind of quiet. And he came up, and I guess the seal of validity came from him, and I just started getting punk rock people because they explained it that it's kind of a slap in the face of the composers of the great ones to be doing their music like that. I'm like, hardly, I don't think so, but it was rather, I guess. So that's the punk rock part of it, right? Is the anti-authority and
awesome.
Yeah, I love punk rockers, man. They are the actual original heavy metal rockers. The last vestige of it for now, because you just can't be a rebel if your mom buys you 12 friggin' Charvels. I mean, it's different, right? Yeah, you're on the shoulders of these guys already just by virtue of them being your ancestors. Come up with something new, and make me not like it enough so that it does qualify as the next. I mean, rock and roll was a youthful thing. It's impossible to imagine that it'll ever be accepted. I don't even want it to be accepted. It's like legalizing marijuana. What the hell fun is there in that? That's my point.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity for bringing Dinner and a Solo to the Yeti Radio.
The honor is completely all mine, dude. I don't know. And I want to just thank a couple of other people like you, like John Rowland, and Penny Freeman, and Adam Spleen. And no one could pronounce your last name, dude. Adam Spleen, that's what your name is. And then Scott Rowe. All the people have been doing these promotings because we don't have a promoter here. We don't have a greasy old man who just takes half the money and pays the band nothing, which is what all promoters used to do and still do. I mean, we think of them negatively, even in a good light, like in boxing, right? Who's that guy with the hair?
Right.
Right, but he's like
Don
the
King.
number one promoter, right? So, so you know that there's this element, and we're just trying to promote enough to keep our music scene afloat and have our music have good talent, have an opportunity to show itself, and that's what's really good about this scene. And thank you for this, Ken Howie and Toolin and Christian and everybody in Sectus, David and Dylan, that you guys are preserving what it means to be in rock and roll by supporting these bands that are I'm not going to say under you, right? But it is really it's a hierarchy. These guys have been doing it for a decade or more, and I get bands complaining they have to tour after a year and where's the green M&Ms and all that other crap. Right. So I mean, yeah. Where do you get out in the real world, or stay here because it's pretty nice here, man. I'd rather be not famous here than famous in New York.
It's beautiful here.
No parade, though.
That's why.
Artistically, you have a platform all your own. I mean, I came up with a default of the no band members, no singer, play Beethoven, and that works. You can't get these kinds of opportunities in the music cities. If you're not writing the way that they are, you don't even see the open mic nights.
Right.
I've been there. You know?
Well, when I stumbled across and got the opportunity to dip into this, and it all started small because I only found a few bands that were on Bands in Town, and I was like,
oh, Bands in Town. I remember.
Yeah. And then so in the shows that I was doing with other internet stations, I would do a segment that kept growing. It ended up being close to an hour, a little over an hour, of local Arizona music. And they were okay with me doing it, so I did it. And then, obviously, COVID happened, and, and a couple other things.
So you were caught right then, too. That's when you were just starting getting rolling then.
Well, it all started in 2017.
Yeah.
And it just progressed. And then COVID happened, and then when we came out of COVID, I knew Penny from work, but didn't know her. You know, we weren't on a first name basis. You know, we knew who each other were. That was about it. And somebody introduced us because of what she does with Rockin' Free and with what I was doing, which I wanted to focus more on that, the big banner, all that, and then some, because there's probably another 1,500, 2,000 more on top of what's on that banner.
Are they as indignant about not getting added yet?
No, it's kind of settled down, and that one's not out. That one's only in this studio and on the broadcast. It's not put out like the other one that had the Phoenix Music Scene logo in it.
Is that what's that voice? What's that voice that's welcome to the Phoenix Music Scene? Where did that come from?
Oh, that's David Lee. He's the voice of KUPD.
He sounds like the guy who did the KUPD.
That's him.
That's okay. Well, there you go.
Well, he's actually from Wisconsin.
Oh,
and,
I'm sorry.
But he when I found him, because he asked me, "How did you find me?" And I said, "I Googled the voice of KUPD." And
wow.
David Lee
so
Productions.
You kind of like, you did, who's that guy from the Partridge Family?
Yeah.
Reuben Kincaid, where Danny slides the cassette deck
Right.
under the bathroom. So you trapped him and got his services.
Yeah, and he did some work for me for one of the stations I was with. And then he came and actually checked out the show. And
wow,
it inspired him enough. He actually has his own internet radio station right now. It's called the Titletown Music Archive on Live 365, and he says I was the inspiration for that. And I'm like, yeah, right.
Really? No, you'd be surprised how you might inspire great people that just stumble on you.
And he's been doing voiceovers and stuff for that's his career, you know. He's done Nissan commercials. He's done Monster Jam. He's done Westwood One Sports. I think Fox Sports.
And doing being the voice of KUPD in the fifth largest city in the nation, and probably
definitely.
the #1 rock and metal city. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Thank you for having me on, man. This is a rare treat that I get to say anything.
Well, I went over to your place for dinner and a solo, and I'm like, well, once I get it set up, I got to get him over here, and we finally got you here. So thank you very much.
So the dinner part of Dinner and Solo is when we play out, we bring dinner. So that's people are still wondering why I don't do some shows where I just eat and don't play. That's the guy from First Draw. Cameron asked me that.
Screw the solo,
He said, just eat their spaghetti and just not have the logo behind you, but don't play. Don't
take a red line and put it through solo for the night. Just dinner.
Yeah, then you got dinner.
Yeah,
there's nothing. Then you're going to parade for that.
Anyway, all right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. BRYON Mogul and Miss Jen standing off over in the shadows. She doesn't like camera. Hell, I don't like camera, but, you know, when you're on a camera site.
I love camera.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. And it's the YetiRadio.com. Live on YouTube. Next week, we've got Miss Keely Wolf in an interview with the Yeti. Apparently, she can see her ass live on the YetiRadio.com. And so can you, June 1st at 5 p.m. I hope that was good enough for her to use in one of her stand-up trips, but this will be my first trip outside of music, as far as interviews go. So this is going to be nerve-wracking for me because now I'm going to have a comedian that's going to be poking fun at me while we're doing an interview. But I'm really looking forward to it.
She's done a lot for local bands. I mean,
she's been in a lot of shows. She's been the in-between entertainment between sets, and
just don't let her sing.
Okay.
No, I don't know.
I didn't say that. All right, and then let's see. The next one after that is going to be Thursday, June 8th at 7 o'clock. The Lord Terry Babbix is going to be here.
By himself?
I guess.
He knows more about the industry than almost anybody I know, dude. If I want to know a question of like protocol, he knows it all.
I'm sure Mushy will be with him, but
yeah, she's always in the wings.
Yeah, you won't
have any problem getting her on camera either. And rightly so. She's a hot woman.
Right.
Congratulations, Terry.
And then Thursday, June 15th at 6 o'clock, we'll have the unmistakably known Mr. Gordon Circle.
Yes.
And then June 22nd at 7 o'clock, Dawn of the Rising.
Congratulations to those guys, man. That's a unique and totally legit nomination you guys got for...
Hell yeah.
They're our heroes, man. I'm telling you. I already knew that a long time ago. That's why I'm friends with them. And they're down to earth, and you should give them your time. They deserve every bit of it. Dawn of the Rising. Soldiers. Soldiers is a big hit, I think it's going to be.
Phoenix Live local music. Got here a little late. It's Adrian.
And
it says, hi, Jen.
Jen. I'm fixing to find out what. Looking for the man who shot my paw. Jen, you got a shout out. Somebody said hi, Jen, on the interview.
It's the YetiRadio.com. Check it out on all platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. If you insist that I do Twitter, I will. Not a big Twitter fan. I don't understand Twitter, but hell, I don't understand any of it. But here we are, right? So, again, it's the YetiRadio.com. Mr. Bryon Mogul, thank you again, sir. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And now a word from our sponsor.
David Lee Imaging in the Titletown Music Archive and the Live 365 app.
We can all be quiet and peaceable and have a few beers together and listen to the music.
The Yeti.
Can you dig it?
The Yeti.
Can you dig it?
The Yeti.
Can you dig it?
The Yeti. The YetiRadio.com. We salt our margaritas, not sidewalks, on the Phoenix music scene.
This radio person is the whole problem.
The Yeti.